In today's video, we're going to make some baking powder biscuits. Now these biscuits are pretty similar to the other ones that we've prepared on this channel, but they have a slight variation. If for some reason you don't have cream, but you have, say, a lot of butter, this can be a great option. Alright, so let's get started with the ingredients that you'll need for this recipe. You will need 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, half a cup of butter plus about 4 tablespoons more of butter, and finally 3/4 a cup of milk. As far as other items you'll need a set of measuring spoons, a large bowl, a baking mat or a clean place to spread out the dough, an ungreased cooking sheet, a small bowl to hold extra flour, a cookie cutter or some way to shape the biscuits, a pastry blender and or a fork, and a shallow bowl that you're able to dip biscuits in. Alright, let's get started by mixing the dry ingredients together. Next we'll add our teaspoon of salt, and add 3 teaspoons of baking powder, next we'll add our tablespoon of sugar, we'll mix those all together. With our dry ingredients together, we'll start mixing in our half a cup of butter. I let it soften for a little while, that way it's able to mix in pretty well. Once the butter is starting to look like a coarse meal, we'll start to add that milk. Add it slowly, just enough so that it starts to stick all together. We don't want it too wet, but just moist enough that it becomes biscuit-like. Once the dough is starting to hold together like this, we can move on to start forming the biscuits. For this next portion, we have a few things to do. First of all, set your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, clear off a space to work and roll out your baking mat, or if you have some cellophane or some clean space that you can work and roll out the dough. Next, we'll fill up a small bowl of flour. And when I say fill up, just enough so that you can spread it out on the mat as well as use it to spread out the dough. Last of all, for the prep work, take your 4 tablespoons extra of butter in your shallow bowl. Go ahead and set that in the oven and melt it down so that it's ready for the next portion of this video. Once we have our melted butter, we're ready to start on the next part of making the biscuits. I'd also like to add that one other thing that you'll need for making biscuits is a rolling pin. Alright, so we have our dough, we have a clean space with some flour, and we have some butter, as well as our ungreased baking sheet. First things first, we'll take a little bit of flour, spread that around our baking mat. We'll also add some flour to our hands, and a bit of flour to the surface of the rolling pin. Next, we'll take our dough, place it in the middle of the baking mat, and spread it out with our fingers into a round shape. You're looking to make the dough about 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch thick. Once we have our dough pressed out, start to envision the dough in thirds. So we have a left third, a center third, and a right third. We also have a top third, a bottom third, and a middle third. So we'll take the left third of the dough, fold it over the middle, and we'll take the right third of the dough, fold it over the middle, and we'll take the top third of the dough, fold it over the center, and then fold that whole thing over the bottom. Now we'll take this dough, set it up at the corner of our mat, add a little bit more flour. We'll bring our dough back into the center. And start to roll it out. So we'll roll 2 in the top third, 2 in the bottom third, 2 in the center third, and then switch to the other side. 2 on the left third, 2 on the right third, and 2 in the middle third. Just alternate back and forth until the dough spreads out. Again, look for about between a half an inch and a quarter of an inch. You can always add some more flour if you feel like your dough is starting to stick to the rolling pin. Now that we have our dough about a quarter of an inch thick, we'll take our cookie cutter and start to shape those biscuits. Now a couple of words on shaping biscuits. When you shape a biscuit, press down on the cutter and pull straight up. Try not to twist. It'll change the shape of the biscuit when it cooks. And if you're having difficulty getting it off at times, just take your cookie cutter, put it in a little bit of the flour. That way it's able to cut the dough and release. If you run out of room, not to worry. We'll take these biscuits out first, and then we'll reform the dough once more. But before you start reforming the dough, let's take these biscuits. We'll place them in the butter. We'll place them on our cooking sheet. Try and give you a better idea of what that looks like. Take a biscuit, dip it in the butter, and place it on the cooking sheet. When it comes to reforming the dough, I like to leave all the pieces kind of separate. We'll put them on top of each other, but we won't start to press them together until we're pressing them out into another circle. The idea behind this is to try and avoid overworking the dough. Once the dough is again a quarter of an inch, we'll repeat the process from before. Left third over the center, right third over the center, top third over the middle, and that whole thing over the bottom. Alright, we might be able to get 4 more out of this one. And here we have our biscuits ready to go in the oven. You'll set them in the oven for 6 minutes on the top rack and then 6 minutes on the bottom rack. Rotate in between and pull them out after they've been in about 12 minutes. And here we have our finished biscuits. These biscuits can be enjoyed with both savory and sweet foods. So if you'd like to put some gravy or make them with bacon and eggs, or if you'd like to put some butter and jam like I'll do here today, either way will work great. However you choose to enjoy your biscuits, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video. Totally. To your good health.